Welcome to the History and Heritage podcast with me, Liam Blake. Join me as we uncover hidden stories and insights that shaped our world. From mysteries to legacies, join us on this journey through time.
If you want to understand a people, look at their livestock. While that isn't a quote distinctly or directly linked to any individual person, it is a commonly held belief in many agricultural systems across the world. When we talk about Ireland's native animals, the horse usually gallops into view. The Irish Draft, Connemara's, or maybe it's a red setter if you're an Irish dog person. But here's the thing, Ireland has only one native sheep breed. Just one. And it's not some ancient Celtic mystery either. It's the Galway sheep, born and bred in the west of Ireland, shaped by its soggy fields, stone-walled paddocks, and the long memory of the land. This isn't some quaint hill sheep kept by eccentric romantics. No, the Galway is a proper working animal, and its history is tied up in colonial estate experiments, famine depopulation, cottage industry, state intervention, genetic rescue, and, most recently, Instagram-famous wool co-ops and hand-knitted blanket frenzies. Let's rewind a bit. The Galway sheep didn't emerge fully formed from its some prehistoric bog. Its roots lie in the Roscommon Longwool, a breed that began to take shape in the late 1600s and early 1700s. This was the era of a state-led agricultural reform, when Anglo-Irish landlords in Connacht, such as Lord Roscommon and Lord Sheffield, took a keen interest in improving their flocks. They brought in the English Leicester Longwool sheep, also known as Bakewell's Dishley Leicesters, after the famous English breeder Robert Bakewell, and crossed them with the native Irish sheep. What they got was a large, white-faced, polled sheep, which means it had no horns, suited to the wet lowlands and deep grass of Roscommon and Galway. Its wool wasn't the longest, but it was dense and strong, ideal for hand-spun yarn, heavy blankets and hard-wearing clothes. The fleece resembled the Dishley type more than the ultra-long Lincoln or modern Leicester. But here's the twist. For nearly 200 years, nobody agreed on what to call these animals. Locals referred to them as the white sheep, a plain name for a practical beast. But they were everywhere. You'd find them at the previously mentioned Ballinasloe Fair, you'd find them behind low stone walls on the edge of Connemara, and you'd find their wool being carded and spun in rural homes for trade and use. Then came formal recognition. In 1895, a Roscommon flock book was set up, Ireland's first sheep breed registry. It was ambitious, and unfortunately interest faded. The breed wasn't glamorous or export friendly. Still, the sheep themselves kept going, and by the early 20th century, breeders in Galway and Roscommon pushed for something more consistent. Cue the year 1923, in the aftermath of civil war and agrarian upheaval. In a bold effort to consolidate Ireland's sheep industry, a group of farmers and agricultural experts gathered at Athenry Agricultural College and created the Galway Sheep Breeders' Society. They inspected over 6,000 ewes and 200 rams from local farms and only accepted about 600 ewes and 20 rams into their new registry. The goal? Not to create a freakishly large fleece, but to breed a neater, strong and more robust version of the old Roscommon stock. And it worked. By the 1930s, Galway sheep had become the most dominant lowland breed in Ireland, prized for both meat and wool. They weren't mountain grazers like the blackface, but solid pasture sheep for moderate land. Their wool was not super fine, but durable. Spinners liked its broad staple and moderate crimp. Fleeces averaged 3 to 3.5 kilograms per ewe, enough for a couple of jumpers and a warm blanket. If you've ever worn hand-knitted Irish wool, chances are some ancestor of it came from a Galway fleece. In fact, by the 1970s, Galway ewes made up over 60% of lowland breeding flocks in Ireland. That's a remarkable dominance. But here's where the story as with all Irish breeds, starts to get shaky. In the late 20th century, the tide turned. Meat production took centre stage, and the Galway sheep, being a dual-purpose breed, lost out to faster-growing meatier imports like the Suffolk and various continental breeds. The Galways just couldn't compete in terms of carcass weight or lambing rate. By 1992, they made up only 8% of lowland flocks in Ireland, and in 1994, the UK's Rare Breed Survival Trust classified the Galway as critically endangered. Numbers were in freefall, and that could have been the end. Another heritage breed gone, absorbed into hybrids, or left to vanish in farmyard margins. But, guess where this is going? In true Irish fashion, they didn't go quietly. In fact, the Irish Department of Agriculture, along with An Forest Tuluntas, which is now Teagasc, had been running a pedigree recording scheme since 1969, focusing on increasing lambing rates and preserving breed traits. By the late 90s, the breed had stabilised just about. Flocks averaged 1.62 lambs per ewe, which is just about enough, with elite lines producing 2 lambs per ewe. It wasn't a revolution, but it bought the breed some time. Then, in 2019, a groundbreaking population genomics study led by Hugo et al. Confirmed what breeders had long suspected. The Galway sheep carried significant British Leicester ancestry, but it also retained distinctive genetic diversity, including signs of selection for fertility, growth, and disease resistance. Most importantly, its effective population size was still viable for recovery, if and only if conservation efforts were stepped up. And that's exactly what happened. Enter the Galway Wool Co-op, founded in 2021 by Bláthnaid Gallagher, a Galway-based wool advocate and rare breed farmer. With support from over 70 pedigree flocks, the co-op began to create real economic value from Galway wool again, not just for nostalgia's sake, but for actual rural livelihoods. At a 2021 Wool Metal event, they collected 5,400 kilograms of fleece and sold it at €2 to €2.50 per kilogram, around 12 times the average wool price in global markets. Donegal Yarn ended up buying the lot, with full traceability and transparency, an unheard of victory in today's commodity-based wool economy. Then, a lot more recently, in 2023, the Galway Blanket Club, a joint effort between the co-op and Stolen Stitches, a knitting design house, went viral. Patterns and bundles of 100% Galway sheep wool sold out in under 10 hours. This wasn't just sentiment. This wool has real value. It's lofty, warm, and ideal for outerwear. Not as buttery as cashmere, sure, but it's unmatched for its stitch definition and rugged feel. So what is the Galway sheep itself like physically? Galway ewes average around 80 to 85 kilograms, with polled, remember that means hornless, white faces, dark muzzles, and occasionally freckled ears. Rams are sturdy and have excellent carcasses, if you're a vegan you won't like hearing that, but anyways, when crossed with continental ewes. They perform well on marginal land, lamb once a year, and their wool often graded as super select. In other words, these aren't museum pieces, they're viable working livestock with roots in pre-famine agricultural systems and potential for future regenerative farming. At the 100th anniversary of the Galway Sheep Breeders' Society in 2022, farmers proudly showed that many bloodlines date back well over a century. These flocks survived the famine, the land war, the civil war, economic depression, and now climate pressure. It's no exaggeration to say that every surviving Galway flock is a living archive of Irish rural history. So yes, when someone asks about Ireland's native sheep, don't give them a vague shrug. Give them the story of a breed that reflects Ireland's colonial past and its current battle to reclaim local knowledge, craft, and biodiversity. This isn't about sheep, it's about resilience and heritage and land. I'm Liam Blake, and this has been the History and Heritage podcast. You can listen to this episode and all the past ones wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information on previous episodes and history and heritage in general, follow me on Instagram at Liam Blake Podcast.